Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival. And so today I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about some common questions that I have gotten over the past several weeks really on the EMP Shield devices. So EMP stands for Electromagnetic Pulse, and the first question is that I've gotten a few people have said this, like, why would I need this product? What is it? Like, they didn't really get what it was for. So let me just take a second and see if I can explain that. I did a video called 17 Misconceptions about EMPs, and I'll link to that video in the description below. And that really talks about what an EMP is, and just kind of a lot of misunderstandings about how they form and react and all those kinds of things, a little more on the sciencey side of it. But we're going to keep this pretty basic today. So an EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. What we're mostly concerned with here, there are basically three sources that could create an electromagnetic pulse that could be devastating to electronics. And that's that EMP can wipe out a lot of modern electronics. And so that's why some folks are in the preparedness community, or preppers, are concerned about the possibility of an EMP happening. So you've got the first one is, and probably the most likely to happen based off of just basic statistics, is a coronal mass ejection from the sun. Okay? It's not an exact electromagnetic pulse. There's some differences between that and the second kind that we'll talk about. But for our intents and purposes, you could see a coronal mass ejection that is released from the sun that will affect the electric grid wherever it hits, or potentially even worldwide if it was big enough. And what happens is the induced electricity from that coronal mass ejection collects along the long transmission lines that we have in this country for transmitting our power, and then it essentially fries those lines and the transformers that we use to step up and down voltage to transmit at long distances. And so if that happened, if we got hit with a big enough coronal mass ejection, then the power grid would go down. And there could be some residual damage from that transmitting through those lines, transmitting from the line into your home, and could cause some issues there. So that's why these are going to work to protect your home from that. And essentially, I'll explain a little bit later how that works. The second kind of electromagnetic pulse that we're worried about is an electromagnetic pulse that is generated from a nuclear detonation high up in the atmosphere. And if a single nuclear bomb was detonated at the right altitude over the center of the United States, you could potentially knock out power to all or the majority of the United States with just one bomb. Now, with those types of explosions high up in the atmosphere, you don't have to worry about radioactive fallout and those kinds of things as a big factor. But what you do have to worry about is what's called the Compton Effect. And so as ions are pushed out from that explosion, they come down to the earth, and throughout the process of them coming down through the magnetosphere and then turning and traveling along the ground, you get the Compton effect, which creates a very powerful electromagnetic pulse. And that pulse has three different waves: the first wave, second phase, and third phase. And those are all a little bit different, and I talk about those a lot in the video 17 Misconceptions about EMPs. So the EMP Shield is specifically designed to protect against all three phases of that kind of an electromagnetic pulse. So if I remember correctly, the phase 3 is the most similar. It's the slower phase, and that's the most similar to a coronal mass ejection type of disruption as well, like the first one we talked about. So then the third one is a man-made device that could be utilized in a smaller, like in a city or in a region or something along those lines. None exist on a large enough scale to take out a whole country right now, but there are some smaller ones that have been weaponized that could potentially be used on a small scale. So we're not really too concerned about those as far as a big grid down situation, but they could be utilized. So that begs the question then, is an electromagnetic pulse something that we need to be worried about? Well, the answer to that is complicated. It's gotten more complicated recently. I have traditionally always said that I'm not too concerned with an electromagnetic pulse because it's a low probability event that has a high impact, and I generally try to prepare for the high probability events like tornadoes and pandemics and hurricanes and forest fires and those kinds of things. And then if you take care of those smaller, more probable events, then you're going to be more prepared for the less probable events like an EMP. However, what we've seen just recently with the really intense cyber attacks that have been going on, and I'm talking about like right now from foreign countries, it shows that both China and Russia are becoming more aggressive. And I think it might be possible that they see the turmoil that's happening in the United States about this election as an opportunity to drive a wedge and cause discontent. So I don't know. I don't know really if there's a huge likelihood that there could be an EMP attack on the United States. Now I do know that I sleep pretty comfortably at night because I'm fairly confident in the defense systems that the United States has against these kinds of things. And so, it's not something that troubles me a whole lot, but it is something that I've given more thought to recently. Now, the next thing about these is, are these something that, new preppers should get? Does everybody need to have these? And I would say that the answer to that is probably no. If you don't have your basic preparedness stuff covered, if you don't have your food, your water, your home security, bug out plan, and good vehicles and those kind of things, then this is probably not the right item for you. If you're swimming in debt, you don't have a bunch of money and all that kind of stuff, you really need to square away those other items first, okay? But if you've got all your bases covered, and you're good in all those major categories, then this might be something you want to consider. It's really up to you. It's an additional level of protection for your home. So let's talk about what these things do and what these things don't do. All right, because that's another common question that I've gotten is, well, what good is it having an EMP device on my car or on my house or EMP protection device, EMP Shield, if the electric grid goes down? I'm not going to have power to my house anyway, so why would I want to do that? Well, that's a great question. And the reason that you would want to have protection is because it protects everything from your breaker box into your home. Okay, so all your devices, your lamps, your appliances, and all those kinds of things, it protects all those things from the surge. Anything that's plugged into the walls is what it protects. Okay, so it doesn't protect standalone items like flashlights or cell phones or whatever the case may be. But if it's plugged into the wall, then it'll protect it. And it wouldn't matter with the cell phone anyway, because cell phone towers and stuff are not going to work after an EMP. But so what it'll do is it'll protect the stuff that's inside your house. Now, why is that beneficial to you? The reason that's beneficial to you is because then you can pull out your generator and you can hook it up to your house, set up your transfer switch, and you can still run the stuff that's in your house off of your generator. If you're, again, like I said earlier, if you've got your basic preparedness stuff taken care of, power generation is one of those things, right? So then you would be able to still run and use some of the stuff in your house, which will be hugely convenient, okay? It'll be a big advantage to you to be able to still have some of those modern conveniences, you know? So for the money that they cost, if you've got your stuff squared away, they're right around, I think, $350 or somewhere in there, then it's a pretty good investment. You know, it's less than an AR-15, and it's going to give you some peace of mind that your house is going to be protected if there were some kind of an EMP, and that just gives you a little advantage over other people. Now, I know a lot of the trolls, a lot of people will say, well, that's just going to make you a target then. And I think that cracks me up a little bit, because it's like, okay, well, I was under the impression that I'm going to act like pretty much I'm going to be a target no matter what, because if an EMP happens, the amount of destruction and violence and you know, all kinds of stuff that's going to happen within the first couple of years is pretty massive. The congressional report on EMPs stated that they're estimating somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% casualties in 2 years. So I'm going to be assuming that I need to defend myself like I'm a target anyway, right? That's my plan, is I'm going to make sure that my home security stuff is squared away, and I have a plan for dealing with that, regardless of whether or not my lights work, and regardless of whether or not I can use some appliances and those kinds of things. So, you know, that to me is really kind of a non-issue. Let's see what they don't do. I guess the main thing is that you have to understand is it's only going to work on the things that are plugged in. So other items that are not plugged in, like a freestanding laptop, freestanding tablets, those kinds of things may or may not work. And why do I say may or may not? The reason I say that is because it all depends on the size and the amount of wiring of the device and how much energy it will absorb. So smaller, more rugged items that have a smaller footprint with regard to how much wiring and all those kinds of things in them are less likely to be affected. So like a lot, like radios, you know, like ham radios and those kinds of things, walkie-talkie type radios. A lot of information I've read suggest that those probably will still work afterwards, even if not in a Faraday cage, which is surprising because a lot of people think an EMP is going to blast everything no matter what. That's not necessarily the case. It really just depends on the size of the unit, the amount of shielding that's already built into the unit, how it's constructed, how much wiring and all that kind of stuff is in it. There's lots of variables, so some things may work, some things may not. The things that have sensitive, you know, digital electronics in it are going to be a lot more affected. You know, solid state electronics are going to be less affected. So it all just depends. There's lots of variables, and we can't just sweep with a broad brush and say X, Y, and Z. Same thing goes with vehicles. The congressional report to EMPs, if I remember correctly, I'm not quoting it, I'm just going off of memory. I believe they estimated that somewhere around 60 to 70% of cars would be affected and would be negatively affected and may not run. So older vehicles that are older than 1980 are going to be less likely to run as long as they don't have the HEI ignition systems in there. Those ignition modules could potentially be affected, again, depending on variables. So if you've got the older point style distributor and, you know, voltage regulators and you know, those kinds of things, then older cars might not be affected. Okay, so you could go out and buy one of those and fix that up as a bug out vehicle, you know, apocalypse vehicle, whatever the case may be. Or you could install one of these units on your modern car. and get better gas mileage and have better amenities and all those kinds of things. So that's a possibility too. And a lot of people in the questions, one of the common things I get is, well, if all the cars are down, the factories are down, and gasoline's not being produced, then why would I want to spend the money and have this on my car? Well, the reason is because it gives you a huge advantage for a period of time at least. If you're a good prepper, you have gasoline stored at home. You should always keep your gas tank more than half tank. So that right there, in the initial chaos after an EMP was to go off, you're going to have at least a half a tank to be able to get from where you are to where your family is and get everybody home safely, as opposed to having to walk all that distance. So see, that's a massive advantage. Now, if, like I said, if you've got gasoline at home and all that kind of stuff, then you could potentially run for quite a while using the vehicles only sparingly when you need to use them, right? So seems like a pretty good deal. Again, for about $350 or so, you can add this to your vehicle and have a lot better chance of, being able to move and operate and get where you need to when there's a lot of chaos going on. Because let me tell you, if an EMP did ever happen, there's going to be a lot of chaos, right? There's going to be a lot of chaos. People are going to be freaking out in relatively short order. Within 24 hours probably, it's going to start to get a little bit nuts. And so you want to have every advantage that you can if that were to happen. Now, like I said, I tend to think that EMPs are a little bit of a low probability deal. I don't lose a lot of sleep over it, but with all the foreign interference that we've had recently and all that kind of stuff, it wouldn't surprise me. So I'm going to be installing these, one on my house, one on my shop, and one in my car. And so I've got the vehicle one here, very easy to install. It's like, three wires? Yeah, 3 wires on the car and 4 wires on the house one. And here's just a quick look at the, basic instructions for it. You could have an electrician come do it. If you've got some basic electrical knowledge, you might be able to do it yourself. Okay. Oh, they've also got ones that you can hook on your generator as well. So many people who are concerned about EMPs say that the tactic would be that they would launch one, they would wait a few days, let people get their alternate backup systems up and running, and then they would launch another one to fry those things again. Well, if you had the one made for a generator hooked onto your generator, then it would be protected. So they've even got systems for solar panels. They've got all kinds of systems. You can check out their website at empshield.com/reality survival. You can also if you use that link, I'll have it in the description below, it'll save you $50 off of each unit you get, okay? So that's a huge discount. If you got one for your house and each car and whatever, you'd be saving potentially a few $100s. You can also use the code Reality Survival at checkout. Now that code doesn't apply until after you hit checkout, so you got to go all the way through with it, and then you'll see it on your discount. But either way, the link or the discount code is going to save you guys some money if you want to get one. Now here's the thing that a lot of people say is, well, how do we know if these things work? Right? Because the unit is sealed up, you can't really get into it or anything like that. How do you know if it's going to work? Well, the reason I feel comfortable telling you, being an affiliate with the company and telling you guys about these, is because they have testing done with Keystone Labs, okay? Third-party testing. They're not affiliated ownership with Keystone or anything like that. It's a true third-party test. And Keystone Labs does a lot of work with the DoD, okay? I don't believe for one second that Keystone Labs is going to risk losing their accreditation as a testing facility and potentially lose those DoD contracts by providing bad test results for a small company like EMP Shield. I just don't believe it. I don't think they would do it. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I know that they're a reputable source. So that's why I go off of it. I just go off of the third-party testing and the fact that they say that it works. and you know, you can see the test results on their website. They're tested to the military standards. So I think it's a good thing. You know, I have no issues with it. My old truck has got one on it already. I did a previous video showing the install on that. When I installed this one on my new truck, I'll probably do a video on that, and we'll probably get a video installing it on my house and in the shop as well. You know, it's a small thing to have a little bit of peace of mind, and it's one of those things that would really make a difference in putting you in a way better position than everybody else around you. That's the bottom line, and I think, you know, that they're worth looking at as long as you've got your stuff squared away. Okay, that's the main thing. If you're not there yet, don't worry about these. These are more of an advanced kind of thing, and so check where you're at before you go jumping into something like these. The next thing, well, I've been asked recently is lightning strikes. Do these work for lightning strikes? And what about that? So yes, they do work for lightning strikes. They will protect your home from a lightning strike. If I remember correctly, the E2 wave of an EMP is very similar to a lightning strike, although the amount of voltage is a little different. So a lightning strike will actually fry one of these units, but it will protect your house. Okay, so if you get a lightning strike after you've purchased one of these, what EMP Shield will do is they will give you a new one for only $50 for a replacement model. So that's pretty cool. It's you know, if you live in an area where you are prone to lightning strikes, you get a lot of really heavy storms and those kinds of things, you might want to also consider doing a basic surge protector that's built for repeated lightning strikes. Okay, because it's a slightly different energy signature and the way that it all happens. So you have to have these units built for what they're intended for, right? These aren't actually built to be intended for use as a lightning strike surge protector. They're used for EMPs, and they're designed specifically for those. So if you're really concerned about lightning, it gives you a layer of protection, but you may want to also consider having an additional actual surge protector that's built for those things on it. Now, does a surge protector for lightning give you coverage for an EMP? No, it doesn't. I mean, and it doesn't because it's not fast enough. The thing that these things have that nothing else has, from my understanding, and again, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I've spoken to the owner and the developer of these. I'll put that video down in the description below too, is that they're really fast, okay? And I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I want to say it was like a billionth of a second or something like that they react to the voltage spikes. And essentially the way that they work is when they detect an overage in the system higher than what it's supposed to be, then they shunt that energy back to ground, okay? And so what happens is, there's a few things that have to happen to fry your electronics. You have to have the overage of energy, okay, a spike in the energy, and it has to be there for a specific amount of time to fry that component, to build up that heat and cause the component to fail. Well, if you have a spike of energy and then the EMP shield is draining off that energy faster or you know, fast enough to keep the heat from building up, then you won't have the destruction of the device. That's the way I understand it anyway. So that's what these things do. They monitor your system. I think the house version, I want to say, check their website just to make sure, but I want to say one unit will cover like 5,000 square feet. I could be wrong on that, might be 3,000, but I think it's 5,000 square feet. It's about like a basic house, right? Like a good size house. They can do all kinds of custom options for you. So if you are a person who has a business or a machine shop or, you know, a specialty kind of situation, just call them and talk to them, and they can design the needs that you have, to cover what you got going. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to discuss on this. I think those are the main questions that I've gotten recently. Anyway, I think it's a decent deal. It's worth the money if you've got your stuff squared away. I want to press upon that a lot, because in the prepping field, a lot of people tend to be focused on one event or another, and they might overlook some of their basic preparations because they're scared about a certain event happening, and I don't think you should do that. You should cover your bases first. You got to get your food and water. You got to have, your power generation, your home security, your health and medical, your water, like I said, water already. You got to have all that stuff squared away first, okay? Then worry about some of these force multipliers later on down the road. It's kind of like, to me, I view these things as kind of like a force multiplier, like night vision goggles or a thermal scope, or, things that are just a little bit more advanced and not, the bare bones basic stuff that really, affects your survival. So, just take that for what it's worth. I'm not trying to say that this is the right thing for everybody, but if I can save you guys some money, if it's stuff that you're interested in, then I'm glad to do it. And like I said, you can go to empshield.com/reality survival, and that'll, when you go to checkout, that should put your discount on there. You've also got the discount code reality survival that you can use in the discount code in case you just go to empshield.com or something. And yeah, I think they may even have some other discounts for Christmas and stuff going on. They will let you apply 2 discount codes, which is crazy. Most companies don't do that. So you can also search around the web maybe and find some other discount codes and even get additional discounts. So anyway, guys, that is that for this video. If you've got any questions about these, you can throw them in the comments below. Let me know what you think. I'll link to those other videos that I've done on this topic down below, as well as the affiliate link below. And other than that, don't forget to live the 6 P's. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.